Welcome back! This time we journey to Glen Creran on the Argyll coast to climb the shapely Beinn Sgulaird. Along the way, we'll discover the history of the Stewarts of Appin, cousins to the Royal Stewarts. If you find yourself enjoying the show, feel free to like, subscribe and share, as this really helps the channel to grow, and that means more free content like this for you to enjoy. Glen Creran is a quiet, secluded glen far less visited than its more celebrated neighbours. It runs roughly parallel to Glen Etiv and bears two Munros on its eastern side, Beinn Sgulaird and the considerably more remote Beinn Henley, which we'll do next time. Beinn Sgulaird is a granite peak of the Etiv Pluton, sharing many characteristics with Beinn Sgulaird from episode 5. While Beinn Sgulaird can be ascended from the northwest or from Glen Etiv, the former demands careful scrambling and route finding, while the latter is a lengthy approach that's far from convenient. The most common route is from a sizable lodge named Drumavuk, a short way up Glen Creran, roughly where Loch Creran ends. Just beyond the lodge, a gate and track leads up onto the hillside, where a protracted ascent begins over several intermediate and unnamed summits before the Munro itself can be tackled, again similar to Heart of Kinglass, with granite pavements and other interesting geology to enjoy on the trail, as well as some spectacular seaboard views. Leaving the track at a small cairn that's easily missed, the first objective is the lowly point 488, which is followed by a sharp descent into a large trench-like gap before the path continues up towards the larger point 863, where your efforts are at least appropriately rewarded by extensive views on all sides. Northward, Beinn Sgulaird beckons behind Miaul Garav, towards which the route then begins to traverse. There's minimal handwork here, and the descent between the three tops is not particularly troublesome by Munro standards. The final ascent of Beinn Sgulaird's southeast ridge is leisurely, rising to a balcony below the summit ridge before winding up to a cleaving, where the summit cairn and outrageous vistas to Beinn Aveir, Glen Coe, Glen Etiv and Beinn Creran await. Unless you fancy your chances on rough, pathless slopes from one of the intermediate corries and a long walk back to your car, the return route is back along the ridge and down to Drumavuk. Mountaineering is a life-endangering activity. Do not attempt any Munro without the right equipment and experience to overcome unforeseen challenges. Be prepared to navigate dangerous areas in low visibility using only compass bearings. Do not rely on there being a path to follow. Weather conditions on the mountains can change quickly and may differ greatly from those at ground level. If in doubt, go with a guide or experienced companion. In winter, the Munros are as serious as the Alps. Be bold, be safe. Yo, here we are in beautiful Cregan, or Cregan Bridge. Just at the entrance to Glen Creran up here, which is the route we're going to take to get to Beinn Sgulaird. Drumavuk is where we're heading for. This is about 20 miles north of Oban. As you can see, it's lovely Argyll seaboard views. And we're going to get even more up the top of Beinn Sgulaird. A window on the western seaboard. Let's head on down there. Aha! There it is, Beinn Sgulaird above Loch Creran. You can see Beinn Henley behind it in the silhouette there. Now the sun's shining on our route tomorrow. You can see obvious track winding its way up there into the corrie. We'll then take a left and head up that ridge, which is dappled by the clouds, and over a couple of intermediary tops on the way to the Munro summit itself, just in the shadow there. Beautiful view, isn't it? And quite less frequented corner of the Munro map. Glen Creran, it certainly looks like a hidden gem, huh? Going to make our way along the south bank of the loch here, down to Drumvuik. Well, here we are approaching Drumvuik, and the really lovely view up Glen Creran there. Marvellous, looking up towards Ballachulish. And yeah, basically gonna mosey on down here, past the farm, and then up that track there. And here we are at said track head. Don't be confused by this, I'll just take you along to the rather stately cottage. Well, we're just making our way up the track here, and I don't know if you can see, but up there on the ridge, sizable object, gigantic boulder, somewhat out of place on the otherwise fairly smooth ridge. Guess we'll investigate it tomorrow, eh? Not a bad perch, is it? If I do say so myself. In the morning, our path is clear. We're going to investigate that rock up there on the ridge and the rest of the route to Beinn Sgulaird. Morning all. Well, it's another fine day we've got ourselves into. Bright sunshine illuminating the first leg of our route up here. Weather's fairly cool, getting a fair bit of sunshine, so it's keeping it on the right side of chilly in the shade. And later on, higher up, I would imagine it'll be a bit more chilly, but hey, that's why we bring the extra layers, isn't it? Let's head on up there. Well, here we are at the start of the path. Just leaving the track here at this cairn, you can see, easily missed, so keep your eyes peeled. Lest you end up going round here and into places unknown. Well, here we are up on the ridge, proper, making our way up to point 488 and onward to point 863. Exciting names, aren't they? Well, here we are approaching said stone. It's a bit of a hat-shaped stone as well, isn't it? Or boulder. Kind of a bishop's hat, you might say. And there it is. Beinn Sgulaird appears behind point 863 up there, which you can see there's a little dip, and that's going to be the story of the day. Unfortunately, there's a fair bit of, well, I'll say fair bit, about 50 meters average descent between each of the tops, but hey, so be it, eh? Because it's going to be some mega views from up there. Got lovely visibility today, and you can see the high track, the high pass there, over into some really remote country. Well, here we are on point 488, and wow, lovely view down into Glen Creran there, all the way up to Beinn Sgulaird and the moors you can see, and the sheer peaks of Sgurvan and Geology there. You can see Sgurvan as well has appeared. Marvellous, isn't it? In the kind of middle ground here, you can see Beinn Sgulaird, and yeah, smashing views already. Got a little bit of a dip down here, and then back up again, and onward to the Munro. Let's bash on up there. Well, here we are about 600 meters. It's become a very leisurely stroll up here, as you can see. It's about a kilometre and a half from that dip, that trench down there, to the top of here. So, and it's about 400 meters ascent, so you don't need to be a mathematician to realise that ratio is fairly easy going on the Munroist. Well, here we are approaching the summit of point 863. We're getting a lovely view across Loch Etive to Beinn Creran and the Creran range. Views continue to impress out here. Marvellous. See Big Ben Moor dominating the skyline there to the southwest on Mull. And here are we at point 863, and wow, the view's just mega from here. You can see all the way up Glen Etive to Ranachmore. You can see the Buchillia. Absolutely magnificent. And I've got a feeling on the top of the Munro over there, it's going to be even better. So without further ado, let's bash on over there. Well, here we are a little bit further along the ridge. You can see Meawlgareth there, rocky hump in our way before we take on the final summit ridge up there to the summit of Beinn Sgulaird. Down here you can see some wild moorland, pretty remote country between here and the Glen Etive there. This here is Beinn Sgulaird, the shiny mountain. And yeah, lovely view up Glen Creran there. You can see sunlight on the Creran Massif. Over there to Beinn Sgulaird. Well, here we are in the Bealach, having descended there from point 863. Fairly rough and rocky. More of the same over here in Beinn Sgulaird. Not terribly intimidating though. So once we're over there, we'll be onto the final ridge. Well, that wasn't too tough at all. A little bit of a scramble up there, but really no bother at all in the Grand Munro scheme of things. And see this little guidance cairn, there's been a couple of them on your way up here should you require them in poor visibility. Could get a little confusing, I guess, but the path is always generally quite discoverable again, so yeah, not too bad. The Isle of Lismore down there and Ben More in the background. A grandstand view. The south faces of Beinn there. Sgulaird and Sgulaird, and they're quite sheer and pointy. As we said, Carnmore Gerrig-like Sgurvan there. As you can see, it's a bit more up and down edge. This is quite an undulating ridge. Let's head on over there. Well, here we are at the foot of the south ridge of Beinn Sgulaird. As you can see, nothing to it really, is there? We're about 790 metres just down here, this Bealach, and Beinn Sgulaird is 937, I think, off the top of my head, so looking at about 150 metres of ascent. No bother at all. It'll be a nice saunter up to the summit. Let's do it. Some enjoyable clambering among some lovely granite formations up here, really interesting shapes of the rocks. This is a fantastic Munro, it really is. Lovely experience if you get good visibility, and very peaceful, quiet, and just allows you to soak up the grandeur of your surroundings. See over there for an example of that. Glen Creran over there. Drochid Glass, the Grey Bridge. Stop Daff. Miel Cornic. Beinn. Outstanding. Over there, getting the menacing looking west face of Beinn Sgulaird. It's the final furlong. Let's smash it. And here we are approaching the summit cone. This may seem like a rather circuitous route to the summit, but again, the mountain tricks us. This isn't the summit. The real one lies around the side of it. Yes, there it is. Our objective at last, in sight. As you can see, there's a fairly leisurely way up to the summit. If you feel so inclined, and you haven't taken the, again, the direttissima route up here, for those like me who had about enough of the going around things. Just want to get up here and see the summit after what has been a fairly exerting traverse of the ridge there, but all within the realms of reasonable fitness, you know. Ventriloquin, catching the rays. Beautiful amalgam of peaks there, all around. Wow. Views on this one, 6 out of 5. Let's mosey on over to the summit. You can see a sizable cairn there to reward us for our efforts, and just to put a finer point on the fact that this is the summit of Beinn Sgulaird. We are indeed at the tip of the hat. Yeah. Fantastic view over there. Beinn it's Twin Peaks. Looking up to Beinn to the jagged teeth of Beinn Beinn nam Beinn, Stop a Corysgrefach, Buchiliet of Beg, Buchiliet of Moor, Glen Etiv down here, Beinn Starav, Beinn Louis. Just a stunning seaboard view. Again, if a popular beer manufacturer made Munro summits, this is one of the finest I've ever been on, I gotta say. That's Beinn Sgulaird in the bag. The history genealogy of Clan Stewart dates right back to ancient Brittany, through to Fergus MacCurk, who reigned over Argyll at the turn of the 5th century, through Banquo, Thane of Lochaber, slain by Macbeth in 1043, to Alan, created Lord High Steward of Scotland around 1100. Clan Stewart are believed to be descended from Walter III High Steward, who adopted the name Stewart. Stewart with a W is an anglicisation of the Gaelic Stewart, and the French-style spelling with the U was adopted by the line of the Royal Stuarts after Mary Queen of Scots, as we learned in Inglorious Revolutions. Here you can see some of the other family names associated with the Clan Stewart. Is yours in there? If so, you may be related to royalty, but put down the tax exemption form, because unfortunately the Royal Stuart line is now long extinct. The Stewarts of Appin are a West Highland branch of Clan Stewart, and since the 15th century, a clan in their own right. The name Appin is an anglicisation of the Gaelic Appian, Abbey lands, in reference to Lismore Abbey founded by St Molig. Appin forms the northernmost region of modern-day Argyll, between Benderloch in the south and the Ballachulish Narrows to the north. The 6th High Steward of Scotland, also named Walter Stewart, married Marjorie Bruce, daughter of King Robert the Bruce, and their son, Robert II, was the first Stuart monarch. The Stewarts of Appin are cousins to the famous Royal Stuarts. Not that you'd know, however, because most of the Stewarts of Appin did not use the surname Stewart. Like the MacIans in Glencoe, leadership of the Appin Stewarts was held by the chief, while his many cousins were tacksmen or dúna uasal, holding minor estates in Appin as cadets. Many clansmen were descended from families who had lived in Appin long before the Stewarts arrived, including MacColls, Clan Maclay, McCorkadales and Carmichaels. The Stewarts of Appin were traditional allies of the Clan MacLaren of Balkidder, the Clan Cameron of Lochiel, and of course the MacDonalds or MacIans of Glencoe. Like most Lochaber clans, the Appin Stewarts were inveterate enemies of Clan Campbell of Argyll and Breadalbane. The Appin Stewarts are descended from Sir James Stewart of Pearston, who was the grandson of Alexander Stewart, the 4th High Steward of Scotland. The surname Stewart originates in this title of steward, that is, a caretaker of the throne in the monarch's absence or infancy. James' grandson, through marriage, became the first Stewart Lord of Lorne. 2 further generations would inherit the title, and by the 15th century, the 3rd Stewart Lord of Lorne and chief of the Appin branch was one Sir John Stewart, I don't think it was that one, whose seat lay at Dunstafnage Castle near Connell, north of Oban. Legend has it that in 1445, the chief, Sir John Stewart, was returning to Dunstafnage Castle and his wife when he met a young lady thought to be the daughter of MacLaren of Ardwick, with whom he apparently swiftly consummated the relationship. Their affair bore a son, Dougal, an heir to the Appin Stewart chiefdom, but he was illegitimate, which barred his becoming said Lord of Lorne. When John's wife died, we don't know how, he waited 5 years as per the custom before marrying Dougal's mother, whose name, like many women through history, appears to have been deemed entirely irrelevant. John set a wedding date and sent a message for his bride-to-be and Dougal to come to Dunstafnage for the wedding. However, a dastardly plot was also in motion to murder John, presumably before he could marry and legitimise his lineage. This may have been on behalf of the MacDonald Lords of the Isles, who, as we know from Fallen Kingdom, were at this time in control of most of the northwestern seaboard, and bitter enemies of the Stuart monarchs. It would certainly have been in their interest to neutralise this powerful and loyal representative of the king in the West Highlands. It's been suggested that the plot included Sir John's son-in-law, Colin Campbell, Lord Argyll, which, given what we know of the Campbells' two-facedness, doesn't surprise us much. As the lightly armed wedding party made its way from Dunstafnage to the small chapel, located about 180 yards from the castle walls, they were attacked by a superior force led by Alan MacCool, the illegitimate grandson of an earlier MacDougall chief. Although better armed, MacCool's force was defeated, but not before mortally wounding Sir John. the Lord of Lorne was rushed into the chapel while MacCool and his henchmen seized the opportunity to occupy the deserted Dunstafnage. With his last breath, Sir John married Dougal's mother, and the boy became the de jure Lord of Lorne. Dougal gathered all his father's adherents and with the assistance of the MacLarens laid siege to Dunstafnage, but to no avail. Colin Campbell, Lord Argyll, raised a group of MacFarlanes to aid MacCool in his struggle against Dougal's forces, and the two sides met in the bloody Battle of Leacadoa, with both suffering heavy losses. Dougal lost the title of Lord of Lorne through the treachery of his uncle Walter Stewart and, surprise surprise, the Campbell Lord of Argyll, yet managed to retain Appin and Lismore. He consolidated his power and fortified the former hunting lodge of Castle Stalker on the Cormorant's Rock in Loch Leigh. This iconic fortress, featured in the finale of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, remains on its isolated islet to this day. Dougal, bitter and resentful at his loss of the Lordship of Lorne, had his men regularly raid the neighbouring Campbell territories. In 1468, in a bid to finally destroy the power of Appin, Colin Campbell and Walter Stewart, the latter now calling himself the Lord of Lorne but with no authority there, organised a massive raid against Dougal and his clan. Alan MacCool was again involved, and they met at what was to become known as the Battle of Stalk. Dougal's force permanently annihilated the military power of the MacFarlanes, and Dougal himself personally killed his father's murderer, Alan MacCool. The battle consolidated Dougal's claim to Appin and the surrounding area, which was formally granted him by King James III in 1470. All's well that ends well, eh? Or not, because this is Scottish history. In 1497, some of the Clan MacLaren led a raid on the Braes of Lochaber, stealing cattle from the Clan MacDonald of Keppoch. The MacDonalds followed them and overtook them at Glenorchy, where a battle took place. The MacDonalds won and recovered their cattle. The MacLarens then entreated Dougal Stewart of Appin for assistance, which he gave. Another battle then took place, where the MacLarens were joined by the Appin Stewarts against the MacDonalds. It was during this apparently rather senseless battle that Dougal was killed, along with the chief of Clan MacDonald of Keppoch. That's right folks, if we've learned anything in our journey through Scottish history, it's not to expect a happy ending. In the Wars of the Three Kingdoms, Clan Stewart supported the royalist James Graham, 1st Marquess of Montrose, at the Battle of Inverlochy in 1645, where they famously defeated Archibald Campbell, the 9th Earl of Argyll, as well as the Battle of Aldern and the Battle of Kilsyth. As we know from Inglorious Revolutions, after James VII was deposed in 1688, the Stewarts of Appin supported the deposed House of Stuart in the victory at Killiecrankie. The Stewarts naturally supported the further Jacobite risings and sent men to fight in both the 15 and the 45. At the Battle of Culloden in 1746, the Stewarts of Appin suffered appalling casualties, breaking the ranks of the government regiments of foot of the British Army. Charles Stewart of Ardshiel led the men of Clan Stewart of Appin during the rising, and many fell at the grim field of Culloden. After Culloden, he fled to exile in France, and his lands were forfeited to the crown. Colin Campbell of Glenure, the Red Fox, was placed as government factor on the forfeited Stewart estates. We'll look at the Red Fox's fate in the next episode. As mentioned, there are further branches of Clan Stewart of Appin. These are known as cadets. The primary cadets of Appin are Ardshiel, Achnacown, Fasnacloich, Invernal and Strathgarry. The most important of these cadets were the Stewarts of Ardshiel. Traditionally, Ardshiel was the tutor to the minor Appin chiefs. Charles Stewart of Ardshiel's son succeeded in having the lands restored later in the 18th century, and the Stewarts of Ardshiel succeeded to the chiefdom of Appin upon the extinction of the Appin family.
Thanks for watching. Really hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, feel free to like, share and comment. That really helps the channel to grow. If you hit that subscribe button, You'll see new videos as soon as they arrive. And also, if you want to support the show long term, hit us up on Patreon, where for only £3 a month you can support the show and help us produce more free content like this for you to enjoy. Next time, we'll head further up Glen Creran into the wilds of Appin to take on Beinn Sgulaird. Until then, enjoy your adventures.